The desert wind screamed like a warning. Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, was more than a wasteland. Beneath its shifting sands lay secrets the world had forgotten. But for Dr. Alaric Darius, archaeologist and historian, it was a whispering giant begging to be understood. He knelt beside a half-buried column in the dig site, his weathered fingers brushing away layers of dust that hadn't been disturbed in millennia. The carvings weren't in any known language, flowing arcs that pulsed faintly, as if sunlight alone could awaken them. Dr. Darius, his assistant, called out, "We found something. A chamber." He stood without a word, brushing sand from his coat. His boots crunched over cracked stone as he followed the team to the edge of a collapsed shaft. A rope had already been strung down into the darkness below. Alaric descended in silence. At the bottom, the temperature dropped sharply. The walls glistened with something like glass, but denser, metallic. Ahead, embedded in a raised pedestal of black stone, was an object no taller than a plate, but flawless in design. A disc, jet black, unmarred by age, and humming gently. He didn't hesitate. His fingers wrapped around it, and the world shifted. His mind flooded with images. A city in the clouds, ringed with fire. Stars aligned in unnatural patterns. Structures on Earth he'd only seen in myths. Göbekli Tepe, Mohenjo-Daro, Nan Madol, all glowing with the same strange symbols. Then a voice. Calm, alien, resonant. "If you have found this, the keepers have failed. The stars are no longer safe. The map must be completed. Earth must remember." Then nothing. Silence. The vision ended, and Alaric staggered back. "Dr. Darius?" his assistant called down. He looked up, still holding the disc. "Call the rest of the team. We're leaving. Now." "But we just found." "Now." He scrambled up the rope just as the ground shuddered. From the shadows below, something stirred. A clicking sound, like metal limbs scuttling over stone. By the time the team reached the surface, the sun had begun to set. That's when they saw them, sleek, obsidian figures rising from the sand, faceless, insectoid, and silent. One of the interns screamed. The nearest drone raised an arm and vaporized her. "Run!" Alaric shouted. They scattered. Bullets were useless. The drones moved like shadows, striking without mercy. Alaric sprinted toward the excavation trucks. He dove behind one as it exploded, the heat blistering his face. Smoke choked the air. He clutched the disc to his chest and fled on foot. Hours later, he was alone in the desert, stumbling toward the lights of a distant village. He collapsed in the sand, delirious but alive. 2 days later, Alaric sat across from a man in a gray suit in a dim cafe in Salalah. "You're lucky to be alive," the man said. "But not lucky enough." Alaric narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" "The kind of man who listens when ancient gods speak. We've been tracking those artifacts for years." "They're not artifacts. They're warnings." The man chuckled. "Everything is a warning when you're afraid of the truth." Alaric set the disc on the table between them. This woke something. It's not just a relic, it's a beacon. There are more out there. A map, a test, and someone doesn't want us to find them. The man leaned forward. "What you're talking about could unravel civilization. You want to pursue it." Alaric stared at the disc, his expression hard. "I want to finish what they started." That night, Alaric booked a flight to Istanbul and began building a team. He would need specialists, people who understood secrets, technology, symbols, and war. The disc pulsed faintly in his coat pocket, like a heartbeat from another world. And Alaric Darius, the man once content to dust off ruins, now carried a message meant for the stars. The Bosphorus shimmered under the early morning haze as Alaric Darius stepped off the ferry. Istanbul was a city of crossroads, between empires, between worlds. It seemed fitting that this is where his search would begin. He waited in the shadow of Hagia Sophia, the disc concealed beneath his coat. Soon, a figure approached through the columns, tall, in military boots and a weather-worn coat. Her stride was precise, her eyes calculating. "Captain Helena Viral, still chasing ghosts." "Alaric?" she asked, shaking his hand without a smile. "Now, they're chasing back. Inside a quiet cafe, nestled near the Blue Mosque, Alaric laid the disc on the table. Helena's brow furrowed. Alien tech, ancient warning. Sounds like the plot of a bad sci-fi novel. Except this novel burned my entire excavation team alive, Alaric replied. And this, he tapped the disc, isn't just tech. It's a key, and we're not the only ones looking for it. Helena paused, then nodded once. Who else do we need? The team came together like the pieces of a forgotten puzzle. Father Octavian, summoned from the Vatican archives, arrived wearing simple robes and carrying forbidden tomes. His weathered hands shook as he examined the disc. These symbols, he whispered, they predate cuneiform. I've seen them once, on scrolls we were ordered to bury. By whom? Alaric asked. Octavian looked up, haunted, by a man who said they were not meant for Earth. Gene Malik, cybernetic engineer and underground hacker, joined them in Vienna. He didn't believe in aliens, but he did believe in secrets and data. He scanned the disk with a handheld rig. It's quantum-laced. Not just memory, it's alive, changing itself based on who's touching it. This thing has biometric memory. What does it show you? Helena asked. Gene frowned. Coordinates. All over the planet. But 3 are highlighted. 1 in Japan beneath the sea, 1 in Siberia, and 1 on the far side of the moon. Everyone stared at Alaric. He only nodded. Then we start with Japan. They reached Okinawa under cover of night. The coordinates led them to Yanaguni, an underwater structure long dismissed by scholars as natural rock formations. But as they dove beneath the waves in stealth gear, it became clear this was not built by any known civilization. Carvings identical to the disk spiraled across stone pylons. They found a sealed chamber buried beneath coral and time. Gene, using magnetic pulse charges, cracked it open. Inside was another artifact, this one cube-shaped, glowing faintly. Talia, an eccentric linguist Alaric had hired last minute, gasped. These symbols, they're singing. Not literally, but they're meant to resonate. Like sound-driven language. Can you read them? Alaric asked. No, she said, touching the cube. But I feel them, like I've seen them in dreams. Helena eyed her. That normal for you? Only since I joined your little scavenger hunt. As they resurfaced, a sleek black drone hovered over their boat. Then 2 more. The silencers had returned. Scatter, Alaric roared. Gunfire erupted. Gene unleashed a portable EMP that bought them seconds. Helena took down 1 drone with a shoulder-mounted ion rifle. The rest barely escaped with their lives. This isn't salvage anymore, Helena said grimly as the boat peeled through stormy waters. This is war. They flew next to Siberia, chartering an old Soviet transport to cross the permafrost to a location no map marked. Atop a ridge of ice, they found the remnants of an ancient structure, half buried, half fused into the glacier itself. Within, another chamber. The cold bit deep, but inside, warmth radiated unnaturally. At its center, a sphere hovered, floating above a triangular pedestal. Octavian bowed instinctively. This is a temple. Gene ran scans. No power source. No mechanism. It's levitating through. God knows what. Talia approached the sphere. Symbols bloomed across its surface. She whispered words none recognized, but they sounded like a prayer. Suddenly, the sphere cracked open. A star map unfolded in midair, projected from the core. It showed Earth, then zoomed out. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, beyond. Then an anomaly. At the edge of the solar system, a pulsing node of energy. A vault, a final destination. Helena muttered, "What in hell is out there?" "The heart," Alaric whispered. "It has to be." Suddenly, the map fizzled. The temperature dropped. They weren't alone. The chamber doors sealed shut. From the ice walls, insectoid drones emerged, silencers embedded and frozen for millennia, now awake. Alaric fired. Jin's implants flared, overclocking his reflexes. Helena fought like a machine. Talia, untouched, stepped forward, whispering more alien words. The drones paused, then withdrew. The door reopened. That night, around a fire in their makeshift camp, the team sat in silence. We're not just finding relics, Alaric said. We're being tested. Watched. Octavian nodded solemnly. The Aeon car didn't leave this for just anyone. They left it for someone willing to risk it all. But what's the price? Talia asked quietly. Jean tossed a twig into the fire. Maybe we find out when we reach the end of the map. Alaric looked up at the stars, the disk warm in his hand. The final coordinates pointed far beyond Earth. But the next piece of the puzzle waited in lunar shadow, and they weren't the only ones with the key. The moon hung low on the horizon as the shuttle pierced Earth's exosphere, its hull shuddering with the force of departure. The stars beyond grew clearer, brighter, closer. For Alaric Darius and his team, there was no turning back. NASA wouldn't have authorized the flight, so Helena Viral called in an old favor with the European Lunar Initiative. Their vessel, the Argo, was retrofitted in secret, built for stealth and equipped with hybrid propulsion. At its helm, Gene Malik fine-tuned the flight trajectory while humming an old Earth ballad through his neural interface. We'll hit the far side in 6 hours, he said. No satellites, no ground control, total radio silence. That's what worries me, Helena muttered, arms crossed as she watched the black void stretch endlessly ahead. Their destination wasn't just a lunar crater. It was something buried within Tycho Omega, a sealed rift the size of a small city. According to the map decoded from the sphere in Siberia, the rift housed an Aeon car relay station, possibly a control hub for the entire network of relics on Earth. And if the pulses Talia had begun sensing were accurate, it was still active. Inside the ship's observation deck, Talia stood before the disk and sphere, now synchronized and glowing in unison. Her eyes were half-lidded, and her lips moved in slow cadence, repeating alien syllables that none of the others understood. You've been speaking their language more fluently, Alaric said. I'm not speaking it, she replied softly. It's speaking through me. You're channeling it? She turned toward him, her gaze distant. The Aeon car left more than messages. They left impressions, memories, emotions. I don't think I'm learning. I think I'm remembering. Alaric didn't press further. He watched her return to the symbols, tracing them like a pianist reading invisible music. He couldn't shake the feeling that she was becoming something else, or someone else. They landed on the far side of the moon under artificial gravity. The rift gaped like a wound in the rock, deeper than any tectonic formation should have been. With suits sealed and gear charged, the team rappelled down in silence. At the bottom, they found a corridor, composed not of stone or metal, but some impossible hybrid. The walls shifted color as they passed, forming echoes of constellations they didn't recognize. Then they reached the inner sanctum, a vast chamber filled with floating nodes, transparent pyramids suspended in perfect geometric formation. In the center stood a console shaped like a lotus, petals open and glowing. Alaric stepped forward, the disk in his hand humming in response. Jean tapped into the system, teeth clenched in concentration. It's a living OS. I've never seen anything like this. I think I can patch it through our neural links. Suddenly, alarms blared. The chamber lights dimmed. From the entrance tunnel, voices shouted. Boots stomped. The consortium had arrived. A squad of armored operatives stormed in, flanked by heavier drones unlike the silencers. These were man-made. Helena reacted first, drawing her rifle, but hesitated as one of the consortium leaders stepped forward. Corin Hale, a former UN diplomat turned corporate enforcer. I warned you, Darius, Hale said with cold satisfaction. You find something valuable, and vultures always follow. You don't understand what you're meddling with, Alaric growled. Oh, I understand perfectly, Hale said, glancing at the relics. Alien tech, planetary network, potential weaponization. You're thinking archaeology. I'm thinking defense systems, energy grids, control. Power, Octavian spat. The kind your governments would kill to suppress. And we'll make sure they pay us to unleash it. Gunfire erupted. Helena moved like a storm, taking down 2 operatives before diving behind console. Jean activated a defense grid from the Lotus terminal, and shimmering energy shields flared to life across the chamber. In the chaos, One of the consortium agents reached Talia and froze. She stared into his eyes and whispered in Aeon Car. His weapon dropped. He backed away, dazed. Talia, Alaric shouted. We need the relay code. She knelt before the console, the disc and sphere now fused in her palms. Her eyes glowed faintly, literally glowing, and the entire structure responded. Light blazed from the floating pyramids. Then betrayal. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber. Jean fell to his knees, a smoking hole in his side. Al returned just in time to see Octavian, holding a concealed pulse pistol, face grim. What have you done? Helena shouted. Octavian didn't flinch. I was never meant to join this expedition. I was placed to prevent it. By who? Alaric demanded. The custodians, Octavian said. A secret order formed centuries ago. We've protected humanity from truths it cannot survive. You killed your own ally, Alaric growled. I spared him a worse fate. The Aeon Car, knowledge corrupts. You've already been touched by it. So has the girl. Talia rose slowly. Her voice was no longer her own. You are unworthy. She lifted her hand, and Octavian disintegrated into dust. Silence fell. No one moved. The relay responded again, this time projecting a final image. Earth overlaid with Aeon Car glyphs, then zooming in on a singular point. Antarctica. Beneath the ice, the true heart of the network pulsed. The heart of the Aeon Car. Alaric turned to Talia, who now looked both human and other. What happens if we reach it? Her voice was layered, her own and something beneath. Then humanity will face the question the Aeon Car died to answer. And what question is that? Are you ready to become more than human, or be destroyed trying? They left the moon in silence. Jean, wounded but alive, was stabilized in cryo. Octavian's betrayal haunted them all, and Talia was no longer just Talia. As the Argo broke lunar orbit, Alaric looked toward the blue world ahead, fragile, vibrant, and now caught in the tides of a cosmic legacy. The end was coming, and it lay buried in ice. The wind howled across the Antarctic plateau as the Argo descended, its landing struts hissing against the permafrost. What awaited them was not just another relic or chamber. It was the final test. The last known Aeon Car signal pulsed steadily beneath the ice, rhythmic like a distant heartbeat. Alaric Darius stood at the airlock in his thermal suit, watching jagged peaks of ancient glaciers rise like white monoliths. This continent was humanity's last untouched frontier, and beneath it lay a power that could reshape their species forever. Coordinates matched the projection, Jean Malik said from inside, his voice weak but determined. His injury from the moon still slowed him, but he insisted on seeing this through. Captain Helena Viral double-checked her rifle. No drones, no heat signatures. If the consortium's still following us, they're keeping quiet. They're not the threat now, Alaric said, eyes drifting to Talia. She stood beside the exit, unervingly calm. The glyphs that once flickered briefly on her skin were now etched into her very essence, glowing, shifting, pulsing with thought. Something inside her had awakened fully. Something Aeon Car. I can hear it, Talia said softly. The heart is calling. Their snow crawlers trudged across the plateau for 6 hours before the scanner picked up the anomaly. A circular sinkhole covered by a thin crust of ice. Beneath it, a carved tunnel spiraled down into blackness. They descended in silence. The walls were metallic and warm, defying the cold above. And then they entered the core. The chamber was vast, larger than a cathedral, shaped like a sphere within the earth. At its center floated an object unlike anything they had yet seen. A crystalline engine, rotating slowly, its light touching every wall with iridescent color. The heart of the Aeon Car. Talia stepped forward. The heart reacted instantly, unfolding like a blooming star. Beams of data streamed outward, wrapping around her body, scanning, syncing. Helena raised her rifle instinctively. Talia, stop. We don't know what this will do to you. I do, she said calmly. It will complete the transfer. Alaric stepped between them. Talia, we came to find the truth, not lose you to it. I am the truth, Alaric. Her voice was now layered, filled with tones beyond human range. The Aeon car seeded pieces of themselves into worlds they encountered, not to rule, but to wait for a species willing to earn their legacy. And we passed. Jean asked, incredulous. You endured. You sought knowledge instead of conquest. You mourned your dead and questioned your power. That is the beginning. The heart's light expanded, projecting images into the air, earth in flames. War, plague, then possibility, clean energy, terraforming, interstellar gateways, evolution. The heart contains not just knowledge, but blueprints, Talia said, for technology, for uplifting a species, but it requires a vessel. Alaric understood. I'm the bridge, she said, but I'm still me, if I choose to be. Suddenly, the chamber dimmed. Static rippled across the projections. Alaric's comm crackled. Multiple inbound heat signatures. Perimeter breached. The consortium, Helena cursed, already positioning herself behind cover. They followed us after all. Within minutes, the far wall exploded inward, revealing Corin Hale, flanked by armored commandos and hover sentries. His suit was upgraded, exoskeletal, likely augmented with stolen alien tech. I warned you, he said, walking calmly into the chamber. You find God's fire, someone will try to steal it. He raised a hand. Take the heart. A pulse of energy shot out from Talia, slamming the first wave of operatives against the wall. No, she said. You are not chosen. Hale smiled darkly. Then we'll take it by force. Battle erupted. Alaric ducked as a beam sliced past him. Helena went full tactical, picking off targets with brutal precision. Jean, crawling toward a control panel, linked into the heart's defense systems, activating ancient turrets that tore through consortium drones. Hale charged forward, his armor absorbing kinetic strikes, until he reached the heart and Talia. You're just a girl, he said, sneering. A conduit. No, she replied. I am the voice. She pressed her hands to the heart. Light exploded. Everyone was flung back. Time bent. For a moment, Alaric saw everything. Galaxies colliding. Aeon car cities made of light and silence. Species born and extinguished in the span of a heartbeat. He saw humanity's potential. Limitless, terrifying, beautiful. And then it was gone. He awoke on the chamber floor, his ears ringing. The heart had gone still. The consortium was gone, Hale included, reduced to ash. Talia stood in the center, radiating quiet power. The glyphs were gone. She looked human again. Fragile. Alaric rose shakily. What happened? I made the choice, she said. Which one? To share. Back on the surface, the storm had stopped. The Argo lifted them into orbit, silent with awe. Talia stood at the viewport, watching the Earth. I uploaded the knowledge, she said, distributed it across quantum links, networks, servers, satellites. Hidden, encoded. You gave it to everyone? Jean asked. No, I gave everyone the chance to find it, to use it, or destroy it. Helena nodded slowly. You made a test, like the Aeon card did, Alaric murmured. Talia turned, a tired smile on her face. Now humanity decides what kind of species it wants to become. Weeks later, the team disbanded, quietly. Helena returned to covert ops, now watching not for enemies, but for emerging powers. Jean vanished into the digital wilds, planting fragments of the Aeon car code in the minds of those curious enough to search. Talia withdrew from the world entirely, her voice now part of something greater, still guiding from the shadows. As for Alaric Darius, he returned to Earth and wrote a book no publisher would touch. He titled it, The Echoes of Etherian, a history not yet written. He didn't care if no one believed him. He had seen the stars open, and he had heard the sky speak. The end.